And now it's time for RoadWorthy Drive with Ken Chester.
Hey everybody, Ken in the house, in the studio, RoadWorthy Drive behind the scenes with the usual suspects. Jack at the controls.
Hello.
Sasha at the spare mic.
Hello.
We're all in it for another hour to win it. At the top of the hour, we're going to wander through the parts bin and get caught up on some odds and ends of some automotive news that you'll find interesting. In the second segment, we're going to talk about ride sharing. It's gaining traction, and people are basically giving up their cars for good. We'll explore that. Topic B is going to be a story of two American assembly plants. Assembly plants that used to make gas-guzzling vehicles that now are being repurposed, still in the auto business, but an internal combustion engine isn't part of the equation. And then finally, in the last segment, we're going to just wander off into the weeds, take you into the future, and show you one writer's take on what a future autonomous world will look like. And it's pretty different and not nearly as far-fetched as you think. It'll cause you to think, because that's what we do here. So we're glad that you chose to join us for the hour. Settle on down, buckle in, and welcome to RoadWorthy Drive behind the scenes. Thanks for watching. Jack, 11 minutes.
11 minutes, sir. Here we go.
I do you want to go faster? Yeah!
It's time for RoadWorthy Drive with Ken Chester. Ken is a nationally syndicated automotive journalist and photographer who has been in and around the industry for over 30 years. So tune in for your fill of automotive information and entertainment with your automotive ringmaster, Ken Chester.
Thank you for tuning in. This is RoadWorthy Drive, and I'm your host, Ken Chester. In studio with the usual suspects, my RoadWorthy Drive crew, my friend and show executive producer Jack DeLeon at the controls, and social media diva extraordinaire, Sasha Little. Hey, guys.
Hi,
Hello.
guys. By the way, I
Yes.
had a meeting this week with the suits.
You know, you meet with the suits a lot
Yes.
without me.
Yes.
I'm concerned about that.
You don't need to be.
Okay.
The suits are, most of the time, the suits are approaching me, asking me how things were going.
That kind of worries me. They never talk to me, though.
And why are they not talking to me?
One, you're out of town.
There you go.
Two, you're never here when the suits are here.
Ah, yes.
That might be a blessing, actually.
And number three, I'm better looking than both of you. But let's
Right.
go.
Yeah. Got
You have the
nothing.
face for radio.
Amen,
There you-
sister.
There you go. Now, regular listeners to our show know that our show is all about tech news of an automotive nature and consumer information will help you today. This hour, no exception. We're going to explore ride sharing, the fate of two American assembly plants that have been empty until recently, and a peek at the future on what your living accommodations may look like in an autonomous world. All that and comments from the peanut gallery, of course. But first, as always, here at RoadWorthy Drive, we want to hear from you. Connecting with us is easy as calling or texting the RoadWorthy Drive line at 872-222-9793. If email is your thing, then reach out to me. That's Ken at roadworthydrive.com. That's how you can connect with me in that way. In either case, reach out and connect with the show. It's fun. And now, a few words from the parts bin. Let's
From
see
the
what we got
parts
there.
bin.
From the parts bin.
I'm really, really excited.
Are you, though?
It's kind of like spinning the circle of knowledge.
The circle of knowledge.
I did not realize we were playing Wheel of Fortune.
Kind of.
Okay.
Kind of.
Go on,
Okay,
sir.
here's a word for you. Ferrari.
Okay.
Purple.
No. They're planning to make a battery electric car.
Really?
Now, for those of you that may not know, Ferrari was recently spun off in the last couple of years from Fiat Chrysler.
Yep.
It was one of theirs. And the challenge that they had, they kept their numbers self-imposed below 10,000 vehicles. There's a reason for that.
Don't they hand build them?
Well, sort of, but that's not the reason.
Okay.
It's an EPA reason.
Really?
Below 10,000. If you are a boutique manufacturer with output of below 10,000, you're exempt from a lot of the EPA standards.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah.
Okay. So if I was a boutique car company,
Mhm.
I could put cherry bombs on all my vehicles and I'd be fine.
I don't think you'd get away quite with that.
Oh, but why not?
And we
Yeah.
all want more cherry bombs.
Of course, though, but no.
The louder the exhaust, the better the experience.
I know that that's right.
I don't necessarily agree, but okay. What they're trying to do, they're going to actually build, and why not? Everybody else is an SUV, but it's going to be an electric SUV. Now, notice I said electric, not a hybrid.
Okay.
So
Now,
they're doing a full electric
Yep.
SUV.
basically in the next year and a half,
Oh.
1919, 1920. I'm
Okay,
sorry,
Here's
2019 to 2020.
here's my question.
Yeah.
Are we going to end up having that ludicrous speed, ridiculous electric motor in this thing?
Like
I-
a typical Ferrari would.
yeah.
May I quote them? They said their first SUV will be, and I quote, the fastest on the market, unquote.
So they're
What
hoping.
could possibly go wrong?
Porsche's been doing this for about 15 years with the Cayenne.
Right, but
And a Cayenne Turbo S, really? You need that? 90 grand
I would,
fast SUV.
I would like the ability to experience it and then say I don't need it.
See, here's the question.
Yes.
Why isn't our government
Uh-huh.
replacing all of the Suburbans, the Tahoes, and everything that they use to, to protect our politicians with Ferraris if they're going to be this ridiculously fast?
American made, though.
I'm sure you could talk Ferrari into coming over here if they had that.
Not
big
at those
contract.
numbers. It doesn't make economic sense. Absolutely not. They are aiming this and their coming hybrid vehicles at who else? Tesla, the Tesla Roadster Model S sedan. And the fact that they've acknowledged an unpleasant truth. They expect by 2025, less than half the vehicles on the road will be gasoline powered or diesel powered. So there you go.
I love how like Tesla has become the new standard that they're comparing their electric cars.
Yeah, it
to.
used to be you compare against Lexus and in way back when Cadillac.
Yeah.
Right.
Now Tesla.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to beat up on Elon Musk.
Yep.
Well, and none of that too. But in another time, I know we don't have time for this. But how is he doing right now?
He's doing excellent. He is doing absolutely
What's up
amazing.
with the flamethrowers? What's that about?
Awesomeness in the world of the zombie apocalypse. I already put my order in for one.
At
Thank you very
$500 a piece.
$500 a piece. I'm actually giving them out
How
as stocking stuffers.
How are those legal?
Did I mention it's a flamethrower?
He raised $10 million.
Yes, he did in like less than 48 hours.
I don't know.
Wow.
Everything he touches turns to gold, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What if I told you in your autonomous car you may need a special set of glasses?
The VR,
No.
virtual reality,
Why?
augmented reality.
No. Combat motion sickness.
Oh,
Huh?
no.
Yeah. Well, imagine if you were sitting with your back towards the front.
Uh-oh.
Got it. Got
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
This study by the University, the University of Michigan, they said that roughly half of adults get queasy now just by reading a book as a passenger.
I'm
Yep.
one of those people.
Yep.
Even more people could feel sick in a driverless car.
This is why I drive.
Okay.
See, and I cannot do the map taking.
University of Michigan
mapping.
researchers have patented a system that can use glasses, or in your case, a headset, to prevent a disconnect between your sense of motion and what you might see. It's a thing.
Okay, so are they assuming that I'm going to wear these glasses and then it's going to affect
It's going to
my
it's going to counteract what would make you queasy, that disconnect between you're sitting but you're going backwards.
When I had my conversion van,
Mm-hmm.
we had a TV in it.
Yes.
My sister, who rode with us on a trip one time,
Mm-hmm.
got so sick.
Yep.
She had to sit up front
Yep.
where she couldn't see the TV.
Yeah, I was the same way. I mean, it just I cannot read, but my children can. I can't.
So they've got it coming. Who knew? Glasses for your autonomous car to keep you from getting queasy.
I'm going to have to see that to believe that.
One technology births another technology.
Burst the need for another technology
Yeah.
because it brings up a very accurate point. I mean, people talk about, oh, it's going to free up so much time, But if you're somebody that suffers from motion sickness or, you know, like what he was saying,
How are you going to be able to get any work done?
how are you going to be, and will it be enjoyable for people like that? Like right now, as long as I'm able to keep my eyes on the road and stuff, I don't get sick. But if I was just riding.
Now, I'm not one that gets sick. I've read in a car.
And it doesn't bother you?
And good for you.
Right.
Wow. Hater in the room.
I am
Jealousy.
not
I'm thinking a little
hating.
jelly.
Oh, is that
I think
it?
that's the little green.
Okay. All right. Well, let me give you something to chew on.
Okay.
Mercedes and BMW to test subscription services in the U.S.
Yes.
After Cadillac, after Volvo, now, and Porsche, and Lincoln.
Yep.
Now BMW and Mercedes looking at the same thing.
Are they going to be more reasonable than?
Probably not. But really,
I was about to say with Lincoln's new Navigator,
yeah.
especially if it's one of the higher end ones,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see this going for any less than $2,500 or $3,000.
Well, the Cadillac one was over $1,200.
It was
$1,500.
$1,500. Yeah.
Yeah. But here's the thing. This is the next level of luxury. When all vehicles are the same and you're looking for a luxury experience, then this is the thing to be able to maybe drive an SUV in the winter, drive a convertible in the summer, maybe drive I don't know, some other vehicle in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have the ability to drive different vehicles as your needs change for that money and with nothing to worry about. You don't have to worry about maintenance, tires, windshield wipers, nothing.
So they're doing it like across their brand then, the Mercedes?
Yeah, and the whole thing is for all of them is they want to introduce people to the brand who maybe wouldn't buy one, but they consider this maybe an extended test drive, an opportunity to experience the vehicle
Okay.
from people who would not normally experience it. So, coming up, ride-sharing gains traction. And then after that, the story of 2 American car assembly plants. You were riding shotgun with Ken and RoadWorthy Drive.
Do you have a question, idea, or comment for Ken? You can let him know by calling 872-888-9793. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Leave Ken a voicemail message or a text.
All the good stuff that happens, the good, the bad,
In the mic.
and occasionally the ugly.
That's why I'm not on mic. Is there any way that you can just cut out?
Do you have a Do you You're listening to RoadWorthy Drive with Ken Chester on the RoadWorthy Drive Radio Network.
Saying. And then Lincoln, was that one across the board as well?
They
or
weren't
is it-
clear about that.
Yeah.
Nor were they clear about what Mercedes and BMW is doing. However, Mercedes currently, right now, has some of this going on in Europe.
I did read something
So
about that.
there is some, they do have some history, but of course the United States being a little different, they're not sure what the mix needs to be, so they're still looking at it.
Yeah, I like the premise of it's almost like taking the rental car experience to a whole new level.
Well, that's the point.
And once it becomes more affordable, absolutely, I would.
$1,500 a month for Cadillac's book is not affordable.
That's why I said once it becomes more affordable.
But you're assuming it's going to be. I'm going to assume it's not.
I think that the future of automotive ownership is going to be subscription based. I don't think that people are going to own. Why would you?
But
Why would you want to?
But here, I don't think that subscription will be a replacement in the mobility factors. I think it would be way cheaper than that. I think it would be a lot of these ride sharing and car sharing services where you can literally rent by the minute.
Yeah.
BMW had that. We talked about that almost a couple of years ago.
Yep.
There were 3 models you could rent for 41 cents a minute.
Yep. Yep.
I think it's going to be more your cable TV, more your cell phone package, and maybe even something like Straight Talk where you buy the thing at Walmart for a set price.
Yep.
And depending, whoever's got the bid, and you do that and pick this one.
So,
it's already prepaid.
Walmart, in case they're looking for another industry to break into, maybe they should join up with like Hertz, and I can just buy my
I would
prepaid
probably bet
card.
my money on Amazon before I would Walmart.
Yeah. See, yeah.
So,
Amazon.
but
seems to be the one.
it could be somebody completely different, not in that space right now.
Yeah.
What we are seeing is the greatest gold rush mentality since the invention of the car itself.
Exactly.
Everybody and anybody is in for a piece of this. I've
Yep.
never seen anything like it.
Well, and I mean, it's not only big commercialized companies that have been a mainstay in our history.
It's small
two
companies.
guys in a garage. I mean, it's a bunch
It's
of college students
It's
that
MIT grads starting a company last year that
Yeah.
they get bought for hundreds of millions of dollars this year
this year.
to get that tech that quickly.
Yeah.
Anytime you're ready, boss.
I'm ready.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
He was fascinated with our discussion.
Edsel Sedan.
I got it.
And we're 9 minutes.
9 minutes, sir. Here we go.
Okay. Let's do what we do when we do what we do.
This is one way to get around. It takes more skill than most of us have. So for really going places, we recommend the great new Edsel. For full 6-passenger comfort, Edsel gives you more room, more size, more of everything. Edsel is built to be the most distinctive car on the road with no trace of look-alike styling. Yet Edsel is now actually priced down in the low price field with many models of Plymouth, Chevrolet, and Ford. Edsel takes bumps like this in its stride. You see, Edsel gives you a big car luxury ride, a big car rugged suspension system, and oversized springs, foam rubber front seat cushions, and a big 120-inch wheelbase for big car roadability. Power? You can custom tailor your power to your needs from these 4 engines Edsel offers, including 2 V8s and a thrifty 6 that give you eye-opening performance on regular gas. Remember, Edsel is now priced down in the low price field with many models of Plymouth, Chevrolet, and Ford. It's a king-size value in the low price field. So don't spare the horses. Visit your Edsel dealer and treat yourself to an eye-opening demonstration drive. See, sit in, and drive the best car buy in America, the 1959 Edsel.
You're listening to RoadWorthy Drive with Ken Chester. Thanks for tuning in. During this segment, we're digging a bit deeper into the evolving world of mobility. Regular listeners know and they understand what we mean by the term. But if you are one of those who still associates the term mobility with those who may be physically challenged, it's time for me to bring you up to date. And let me take you back a little bit. Mobility in today's terms is the whole concept of getting from point A to point B. Now, that doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is. Why? Because in the last couple of years, the Ford Motor Company and General Motors and Toyota, to a lesser extent, have all said that we're no longer automotive and truck companies, but we're mobility companies. And mobility now is being opened more now than ever before to a whole variety of ways to get from point A to point B. Everything from Ford-branded bicycles in San Diego.
Yep.
I'm sorry, San Francisco.
San Francisco.
To ride-sharing, which Ford does with Chariot in San Diego, to just all sorts of different things that have nothing to do with car ownership per se. And there's more to come. with the evolution of autonomous vehicles, we've seen Uber and we've seen Lyft, which are just two of a number of ride-sharing services. And then there are car-sharing services. And we've reported here before that even Tesla is looking at making available where if you own a Tesla, that you might be able to, I don't want to use the word rent, but make your vehicle available for a fee. And that's coming.
You're talking about when you're not using it.
That's kind of usually the way that goes in that case.
I just wanted to make sure.
When you're not using it, that would be preferable. Would you believe that on average, the vehicles that people own, sit 95% of the time?
Yeah.
95%. You spend all this money, you make all these payments and insurance and maintenance and spend all this money to only use a vehicle 5% of the time. 5%. That's crazy. Let's talk about this for a minute. Just taking this a little bit further. Ditching personal cars for ride sharing. This is a survey that Thomas Reuters did a little bit back. And they said of this survey, about a quarter of Americans, no, let me back up. A quarter of Americans gave their car up in the last year. And 9% of that group turned to ride-sharing services such as Lyft or Uber to get around. This is according to a Reuters Ipsos opinion poll. Roughly 10% of those folks used biking, walking, or mass transit, as well as the same percentage number, about 9-10%, used ride-sharing services. It was a small sample size, but indicative of where we're going. Strange part of it is, I lived in Boston when I was in college a number of years ago. I gave up my car for 4 years.
Yeah.
And at that time, if you didn't own a car, you had to rent one. And, if you weren't using mass transit. Where I lived, mass transit was awesome. You could get to anywhere within 40, 50 miles of the city on mass transit.
Okay.
You'd be amazed at just how far out you could get on mass
Outside of
transit.
the city limits.
Outside of the city limits.
Oh, wow.
And today it's even further out. I would say probably it's at least 70 to 100 miles out.
Well, and I'm seeing the transition even where I'm at, because now there's actually companies that will take people like into, if you want to go to Waterloo, if you want to go to Marshalltown, that kind of thing.
Let me use an example. They use an example in this one story of one fella who gave up his car. He lived in New York City and using ride services, car sharing, and bike sharing to get around. He had a car budget of $820 a month. It fell. This is in New York City.
Okay.
New York City, one of the most expensive places to own a car. New York City, not New York State, city.
I'm sorry, where was it again?
From $820 to $250 a month.
Wow.
Using car sharing and ride services.
Now, that $800, did that include a car payment, parking,
insurance?
Okay, so that
gasoline,
was
the whole bit.
everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, about the same percentage in this survey said they plan to dispose of their cars and turn to ride services in the upcoming 12 months. Another 10%.
Yeah.
On top of the 10% that did it.
Okay, I have a question. In my experience, if you do not carry some kind of automobile insurance, and let's say you give up your car, it almost becomes impossible to get that insurance back.
Yes, it does.
Well, if you don't own a car anymore.
Yeah, but if
let's say you give up your car for 4 years. Then all of a sudden, you want to buy a car. You can't get insurance because you have no track record for the last 4 years.
That may have been, but that's changing too. Again,
Is it?
mobility.
Well, and I understand that, but are we in a position where all this stuff is happening faster than the rules and the laws and the rest of the stuff?
Yeah, but that's not necessarily law. That's insurance practice.
Yeah.
And if they want to write it, they'll write it. You may have to pay more for it.
Yeah, for like the
But
first
they'll
like,
write it.
6
but
months.
that's also not fair to me when I haven't done anything in 4 years.
Yeah, well, insurance companies, they'll either change or die. If you don't change, the people, their high pricing, if that is still true, will drive people only further ride sharing, saying, well, why would I own a car if my insurance is going to be ridiculous on top of all this when I can do it for this amount? That's called market forces in a capitalist system, folks. Either get with the program and give people what they want, or people will go somewhere else. And that is what's going on now. Times, they are changing. This survey said 39% of Americans used ride services in the last year, and 27% of that group did it at least several times a week. Food for thought. Next, the tale of 2 American assembly plants, and then finally, FutureWorld, living accommodations in an autonomous world. This is RoadWorthy Drive.
This is RoadWorthy Drive.
Yeah, I will be the first one to say I cannot wait to give up. Just last week, had an issue with one of my tires on my car. And, you know, I cannot wait to give up all. It doesn't make sense to me as a working woman I would much rather spend this money on time with my kids or going out somewhere, something of that nature. It doesn't make sense to pour all this money into a vehicle that all it takes is for one wildlife creature of over, 50 pounds to come out in front of me, and there goes all my money.
Don't fear for deer.
Yeah, I know that's right, because it's going to be on my plate, so long as I didn't rupture, the intestine or anything, or the stomach.
It boils down to this. I really think with the way car sharing services are evolving, that rural America might benefit more than even the big cities.
Exactly.
Somebody will make the case and put the math together and start developing plans so that people in smaller towns may actually have more transportation choices than the folks in the big city, or as many as the folks in the big city.
Just a question to think about. What in the world are the farmers going to do?
What do you mean?
With respect to?
With respect to what do most of them own? Pickup trucks?
Yeah, but that's like...
They own semi-trailers.
Yeah.
They own trailers.
Yeah.
They're going to be the last ones that are going to get taken care of in this deal.
Yeah. But
Well-
what you will see is a migration to electric trucks.
Yeah.
So they'll start getting a benefit.
Yeah.
But the benefits offset, at least around here, is if you're a crop farmer, what are you growing? Corn and soybeans.
Soybeans.
And what are most of the corn farmers growing corn for?
Ethanol.
So we're going to see how that shakes out, because they can't sustain the renewable fuel standard at 36 billion gallons if the demand for fossil fuel is dropping, no matter what big oil wants. With all the automakers and all these companies going to both electric and autonomous vehicles, your last stand will be commercial vehicles. But even those will see some sort of electrification. They may not go autonomous, but they will go electric, simply because of cost. Somebody made a point. There are 1,500 moving parts in the average internal combustion engine. How many moving parts is there in an electric propulsion system?
I think you said 20.
15 to 20.
Yeah.
Which means by nature, failure rate goes way down.
Yeah.
There aren't fluids.
No.
There aren't pulleys. There aren't things like of that nature.
And we've covered, the ownership model for a gasoline combustion engine
versus
an electric.
We just did that a few weeks ago.
Yeah. It's crazy insanity to think that anyone is looking out there. If you're looking to revamp your farm, if you're looking as most farmers will, it's normally about 10 to 15 years is when they go out.
Payback.
Yeah. Okay. That's when they're looking. If you're looking to revamp, they're going to take that initial bite. They're going to take that bite and switch over to electric. You know why? Most farmers I know, they're sick and tired of their knee-deep in muck out there in the middle of the field, and old Bessie grows out. Or something goes wrong, or they hire some kid to actually drive their semi-trailers back and forth to the feed mine, and that kid messes up the gear shaft, or the kid messes up this and that and the other thing. They are sick and tired of all the added expenditures of a gasoline combustion engine.
It boils down to this. Once they solve the challenge of range, And we've reported here extensively that that's a thing, and it's happening. And we should see it in the next 3 to 4 years of dramatically increased range, in the 400 to 600 mile range between charges. Once you see that, particularly if you can get a 3/4 ton pickup truck to a 350, 400 mile range with a load, with its rated load, then I think you're going to see that change. Will it be autonomous? I would argue that at least work trucks, because of the many different terrain they have to encounter, may be the last. You'll see more driver assistance features on them, but I think they may be the last ones to go full autonomous. But eventually they will, simply because right now you've got autonomous tractors.
Yep.
You've got autonomous combines or semi-autonomous combines now. So it's not that far-fetched. So we're going. All right.
All right.
Segment
number 3.
Hold on. Let me reset my time.
What is it at?
9 minutes, and we're in segment 3.
Yep.
Okay, hold on. When you're ready, sir.
Okay, here we go.
Thank you for tuning in to RoadWorthy Drive. I'm Ken Chester, your host. For those of you that need or want more than your share of the road, check out the show website, and that's roadworthydrive.com. We have completely redesigned it. It's cleaner to see and easier to navigate. You can listen to audio clips of past shows, watch videos of our behind-the-scenes antics, the good, bad, and the ugly, and more. The website is also a great place to discover where we are in the universe of social media. Sasha is our social media diva who keeps things entertaining, light, and lively online between shows, and always on the lookout for interesting items of technology, aren't you?
Absolutely. If you happen to come across something while you're surfing the web, or you want to know more about something that you just happen to catch the clip on, send me an email at sasha@roadworthydrive.com, or send me a message on Facebook. Let me know. I can research it for you, and we'll post it on the page.
See how she keeps the social in our social media. You'll be glad you did. I want to turn our attention now to a couple of American automotive assembly plants who are experiencing sort of a renewal under new owners. One is one we've talked about here, and it's a former Mitsubishi plant in Bloomington Normal, Illinois. And the other one, which we haven't talked about, is a former Hummer assembly plant in South Bend, Indiana. South Bend being kind of ironic because that was the home of Studebaker.
Yes, it was.
Both plants will be manufacturing vehicles, but by companies you haven't probably heard about until now. And the interesting part is, not fly by night. They're not following that path of Faraday Future.
So these are established companies.
They're new companies that have deep ties, foreign companies that have hired major American talent in the auto industry, some from Tesla, some from Silicon Valley, some are a mix.
So these are established companies from overseas.
Yes.
And then they are deciding to start manufacture of a new product here on U.S. soil.
That is correct.
Okay, who are the companies?
Well, let's just start with the plants, and by that way we can kind of work up to it. Now,
Okay.
I've been talking about this Mitsubishi plant for a while. The plant, as far as American assembly plants go, is a relatively new one. It was built in the late 1980s as a joint venture between Chrysler and Mitsubishi.
Right.
They called it Diamond Star Motors. About 10 years into the relationship, Mitsubishi bought Chrysler's interest out, and it became Mitsubishi's American footprint. Mitsubishi originally was planning about 10 years ago to spend $1.6 billion in what they call Project America, bringing out new vehicles and products in their American plant. The one that they did bring out was called the Endeavor. The Endeavor was their first SUV. It was nice, but they never updated it. And then over time, they stopped making stuff. They used to make the Eclipse in that plant. That stopped. The Endeavor was made in that plant. That stopped. They were actually doing some building for Chrysler in that plant. That stopped. So eventually the plant closed in 2015. They kind of knew it was going to close by 2012. And it's been sitting empty for almost 3 years.
Wow.
Now, the company is called Rivian Automotive. That's Rivian Automotive. They're planning to build in that plant a new all-electric pickup and SUVs by 2020.
Do they already have these said vehicles already on the road in other countries? No.
I have no.
Oh.
It was actually the company was actually founded by an MIT graduate, and they bought the plant last year for $16 million. They're planning to invest $175 million in the plant and add 100 employees. Now, here's the kicker about the people they've hired. Guy called Gary Glossary. He's a former Magna electric powertrain chief engineer who led the development of the powertrain for the Ford Focus Electric when he was at that auto supplier. And they hired another fella. Actually, they've hired people from Lucid Motors, Faraday Future. No, I'm sorry. Got that wrong. They did not hire people from there. But unlike Lucid Motors and Faraday Future, let me get my story straight.
Okay.
They concentrated on the process and the technology first, rather than the big splash. They bought the Mitsubishi factory for $16 million and expecting it to build that the plant had a capacity for up to 200,000 units a year. Bear in mind, that's a pittance compared to, remember we talked about the new Toyota Mazda plant?
Mm-hmm.
$1.6 billion from scratch. And they're only going to put in $175 million, but what they already had for $16 million, and even at $175 million, they still haven't spent that much. They expect this pickup truck. They've developed what they call a modular pickup bed and cargo system where you can reconfigure it in different ways. Now, Sasha should remember that sounds familiar, like Bollinger Motors, who had the same thing out of New York.
Yep.
They expect it to eventually be autonomous with world-class range, superb on- and off-road, permanent all-wheel drive, and get this, a 0 to 60 time of less than 4 seconds.
Okay, I will be picking up my head out of the back seat.
Probably pretty much. Now, they expect to start building vehicles in this plant next year. They hired a former Chrysler executive who's the chief engineer of the vehicle program. They hired another former plant manager at Chrysler to lead energy storage. And the design of the vehicles, a former chief designer at GM and Ford. So these guys ain't playing. They're putting their money where their mouth is. And that's on top of building their first presence in Silicon Valley.
Did they hire somebody that knows how to run a car plant?
Yeah. The guy who was the longtime Chrysler executive who knows vehicle programs, and then this guy who was a plant manager at Chrysler.
I mean,
in other words, to get to the point, they're not going to have production hell like somebody else we know.
Yeah.
okay, but given Chrysler's refusal and head in the sand about what is the future of automotive.
Probably why these guys are working for this startup.
Okay, all right.
Okay?
There we go.
Also,
All
plus, don't discount Detroit know-how.
Exactly.
Okay.
They know how to get a vehicle from body and white to production, as opposed to just going it alone like someone else we know in Fremont, California. Yeah, I'm picking on your boy. I'm picking on your boy. Now, I need to run to this next plant, AM General South Bend Assembly Plant, SF Motors. These guys hired folks from Tesla, and they are, in fact, the Tesla co-founder is involved, and they are going to build some stuff there in that plant, kind of an SUV, all-electric kind of thing. And they didn't pay much for that plant, although they didn't say how much, but they're going to invest about $100 million. So plants being repurposed for electrical vehicles that used to build gas guzzlers. Imagine that. When we come back to this, we're going to be talking what I call FutureWorld. driverless hotel rooms, and van homes. And you can say what?
No, live in your van down by the river?
Not quite that.
Are we talking RVs here?
Not exactly.
Okay.
Roadworthy Drive with Ken Chester is heard exclusively on the Roadworthy Drive Radio Network.
This is Roadworthy Drive with Ken Chester.
That's going to get that South Bend plant from AM General is just buying the plant that builds the retail Humvees, not the military Humvees, number one.
Right.
Number two, their chief technology officer for SF Motors is the guy who also worked for Lucid Motors, and this guy does and Tesla, their former principal motor engineer.
Okay.
This guy that SF Motors has designed the electric motors of the original Roadster, Model S, and other electric cars such as the Mercedes B-Class and Toyota's RAV4 and the Model X all-wheel drive prototype car.
Now, speaking of prototypes, do either of these companies have...
We haven't seen them.
Okay.
But
'Cause the
given,
one-
given the high-powered talent they hired, they're not playing. They're
Well,
serious.
The first one, you said that they're hoping to start building cars next year. So
Does not necessarily mean that there's not a prototype out there. We haven't seen it.
you would think that when they release something like
No.
that to the New York or
No.
anything like
Not
that.
yet.
No. Not until you get the things worked out of it.
Okay.
And it's not always wise, particularly if you've got trade secrets, to be putting your business out in the street.
Yep.
All right.
Because as a smaller company, you're at risk of a larger company, particularly with these folks coming from all over, taking and running with it.
All right.
We will see. Because we're still waiting to hear from Lucid, which we haven't heard from in a while.
Or my workhorse.
Or how
Or
about
Bollinger getting to the factory stage.
Yeah.
You know, they've been talking.
I've been talking.
They should be right now, right about the factory stage for them.
Yep. There's a lot of things out there in the mix.
A lot of stuff
Yeah.
going on out there.
now? Is Am General still in business?
Yes.
Are they-
Military
are-
is their name. Military is their game.
Okay, so they're still building military Hummers and all
Yes.
that stuff. Are they building that in South Bend?
Yes, in a different plant.
Okay. That was going to be my question that we didn't get to. All right. If y'all are ready,
I'm not. I'm resetting my clock here.
I'm not. I got to get my hair done.
Some people.
what was the quote I'm looking for? This is the last scene. Sorry.
That's okay. When he says South Bend, I keep thinking of high society.
I keep thinking Studebaker and Packard,
I know.
South Bend's finest, and the Nickel Plate Road, but that's a different conversation for a
Different time.
Okay, 8 minutes, 50 seconds, fourth segment.
Yep. Here we go.
Yep. This is our final segment for this hour of Roadworthy Drive. I'm Ken Chester. While much of our weekly conversation has been directed at the self-driving car, the impact of an autonomous world is going to be more encompassing than you might believe. Now, I recently stumbled across this glimpse of the future of one writer's take and found it compelling enough to share. So strap in as we take this ship into hyperdrive into the future. And may I share with you driverless hotel rooms, the end of Uber, Airbnb, and some people would cheer this, human landlords.
Really?
Yeah. How driverless vehicles can enable on-demand accommodation for one night or 1,000 at rates 10 times cheaper than your current rent bill.
Okay. You got my attention.
I'm going to start by painting this picture. I'm going to read this for a minute. I'm going to take a moment and just set the scene. We can talk from there. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're about to begin our descent into Sydney. Please fasten your seatbelts and place your trays in the upright position. Local time is 8:42 p.m. and a humid 27 degrees. Our flight crew wishes you a happy new year and we hope you fly with us again in 2025. Bear in mind, you only booked this flight this morning, and now you're on the other side of the planet. 1 week, for the first time, by the way. 1 week to explore the city and 5 weeks on a new design project. When that project match showed up in your feed, you claimed it in 2 seconds. You've already earned $24,000 design in the tourism economy. The system pings you and asks, need a room? You hadn't booked any accommodations yet, and you say, yes, please. Just out front, number 420. You giggle and follow the augmented directions leading to a sleek, driverless hotel room. It's about the size of a minibus, but without the seats, steering wheel, and engine. A giant transparent panel stretching the length and height of the vehicle greets you on approach. The panel opens up, and you step inside. Inside, everything's as you expected. On the left, the couch seat that folds into a queen-sized bed with the push of a button. To the right, a small kitchenette with electric stove, running water, sink, microwave, and bar fridge. Behind that, the detachable bathroom module with toilet, shower, and wash basin. The system speaks to you. Hi there. Welcome home. Hungry? And you express your order. I could go for some pad thai and a beer, thanks. That'll be here in 6 minutes. You want a tour of the city? Nah. Early one tonight. Let's check out Bondi Beach tomorrow. Your room starts driving itself towards Bondi, and a live map displays on one of the side panels. You sit back and relax with some Netflix on the other side panel. Exactly 6 minutes later, a drone lands on your roof, lowers your order through the compartment in the ceiling. If you need to order any package, you simply ask the room, and a drone arrives. It even does laundry. But there's more. As my executive producer looks at me in rapt attention. Arriving at Bondi Tower 7, you look up at a Lego-like modular skyscraper reaching high above the moonlit clouds. Your room docks with an electric skate and is elevated 30 stories up before slotting into a window-facing position. One of the side panels opens smoothly to reveal a large adjoining living room module. Extra modules are optional and can be requested on demand. An extra bed, private gym, spa, snack bar, office, and more. On the various levels of the tower are cafes, restaurants, retail stores, entertainment areas, communal kitchens, laundromats, gym, even a cinema. Jack, how much do you think that costs a night?
I have no idea.
$30.
Amen. Sign me up.
Huh?
You fall asleep as your driverless hotel room recharges itself, ready to take you on an extensive tour of the city and beaches tomorrow. Your 6-week experience will be personalized to your precise, on-demand preferences, including invites to local communities, events, and interest networks. The only challenge I have with that, I don't think so much 2025 as 2045. But bear in mind, your room took you to the airport, took you to your destination, slotted you up above so you would have, when you woke up, a view of the very beach you wanted to see.
It's almost like the Jetsons, where they actually have to lift their house up above the smog.
Mm-hmm.
You know that one scene?
Only there won't be any smog.
Yeah, that's
But
true.
imagine, this just talked about blockchain and a tourism economy, a situation where you were moved without a vehicle, not even a driverless vehicle, because it's actually not a vehicle, but yet it is. It's your room, your hotel room.
This just sounds intriguing.
Exactly.
But again, how many of us 10 years ago would have thought we'd be talking autonomous cars right now?
In a serious light.
Exactly.
That is happening as we speak.
And as we've talked about here before many, many times, you are looking at technology moving at the speed of sound, and the rest of us are getting, what was that term you used a couple weeks ago? Infolash or...
Tech lash.
Tech lash.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Let me throw this out at you in the few minutes we've got left. Imagine automobile manufacturing. When vehicle production line is down, it costs $22,000 to $50,000 per minute in lost revenue and wage costs. But you can't just shut it off. Bear this in mind. 1.3 billion vehicles currently on the planet, 94 million rolling off production lines each year. Right now. Now, this will blow your mind. We talked about this earlier. All these vehicles that people buy sit 95% of the time.
Yep.
If on-demand driverless vehicles come to fruition, then your $10 Uber ride suddenly becomes a sub-dollar ride anywhere in the city. At that point, the appeal of owning a car will diminish for most of the population, creating a massive oversupply of unwanted human-driven vehicles. I don't think it will get that bad because I think these companies will change long before it gets that. But here's what the writer shares. Given forecast of 2 billion vehicles on the roads by 2040, and considering driverless vehicles only need to be idle while they're recharging, we can roughly calculate that only 100 million on-demand driverless vehicles be required to replace all 2 billion human-driven vehicles. In other words, when every auto manufacturer begins producing the high-demand self-driving cars, it will take 1 year to reach oversupply.
Yep.
There's more, but I'm going to skip and leave you with that because I think that's enough to sink in. Mobility people. Thank you for joining me for the hour. On behalf of the RoadWorthy Drive crew, thanks again for listening. This has been RoadWorthy Drive with Ken Chester.
RoadWorthy Drive with Ken Chester is a copyrighted presentation of the RoadWorthy Drive Radio Network. Any rebroadcast, retransmission, or any other use is prohibited without the written consent of the Motor News Media Corporation.
So you think that was far-fetched? Try this one on for size. Driverless vehicles are simply rooms sitting atop an all-electric drivetrain and rechargeable battery pack with a few extra visual, laser, or radar sensors.
Yep.
In a Tesla Model S, there are only 18 moving parts compared to the 1,500 in the average internal combustion vehicle. As such, it is predicted by 2025, all new vehicles produced on the road will be 100% electric and cost much less than the cheapest combustion engine vehicle sold today. I think I take exception. I think that's a bit optimistic, but I don't think it would be unrealistic to say between 25 to 50%. With maybe 10 to 20% being fully autonomous.
I just think it's funny.
By 2025.
The people that are going out and buying brand new vehicles over the next, from here, 5 years out, they're going to run into an issue when it's time to, quote unquote, upgrade, because nobody's going to want your car.
Or trade.
Or trade. Nobody's going to want it. Dealerships aren't going to want it. Why? You're running a combustion engine. That nobody's going to want that. Nobody's going to want. So what you're spending all this money on every single month.
But I disagree. Here's what's going to happen. Much the same way poor people end up with large cars when gas goes up because nobody wants them, but that's all they can afford.
Right.
These vehicles will be discounted horrifically.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's not that nobody wants them, but what you will see is a disproportionate number of human-controlled, internal combustion engine-driven vehicles in the hands of people who really can't afford them. They can't afford nothing else. Either that, because it's going to be a transition period. I don't think that car sharing and ride sharing will be to the critical mass it would need for a person of low financial need to make the jump just yet. I think they'll be within 5 years. But I think there's going to be a gap between where it is available to them and where they may have to get that last undesirable, normally could never afford a vehicle like this, but it's internal combustion engine, nobody else wants it, the dealer will gladly sell it to you.
Well, and then what's going to happen with gas prices? That's going to be the other thing.
It will depend on the oil industry's ability to shutter capacity to prop up prices. Otherwise, it will continue to fall through the floor.
Well, and then the other question that I've got, and I've said this before and I will say it again, we're having trouble right now when it gets really hot in a lot of places of being able to keep enough electricity to go around that we're not going to have brownouts. Now, you don't hear about them as often, but now we're going to throw all of this electric cars, these electric vehicles, into this mix.
I don't think that that's going to be an issue.
They don't take that
I think
much,
it will
number
be
one.
an issue.
I doubt it.
Mm-mm.
The utilities will adopt peak pricing, and you will choose to recharge your cars at night when other demands are low.
Yeah.
And we've talked about right here, electric vehicles whose storage is so much could actually choose to power your house with it.
Yeah. It's not, by the time that they are the majority of what's on the road in 2025, we're not going to have the high demand for electricity the same way that we do now.
We will have other ways of satisfying
Okay,
that load.
yeah. We'll have other ways to satisfy the
Because
demand.
the vehicles will actually sell electricity back into the grid.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think more and more people, as battery storage and solar power and that.
Yeah, repurposing old old car lithium-ion batteries.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about it here again, how they will have a second life as storage systems. Look at what Elon Musk did in Australia.
True.
Yeah. And I think, as technologies become more and more readily available, it's not going to be just the super rich or the dedicated that have solar power. I think that we're going to have more and more people adopting more and more ways to harvest energy to sell back into the grid.
As it becomes economically feasible, more people will get in and push the price down.
Yep.
So, folks, on that note, on behalf of Jack, Sasha, and myself, thank you for tuning in to this hour of RoadWorthy Drive Behind the Scenes. Be sure to check us out this time next Sunday when we do it all again. So, thanks again. See you next week. Bye-bye.